Hey everybody, so we're back again here with a new brewer. Again, we're doing our best to get rid of bitter coffee. Coffee shouldn't be bitter. So one of the things to do, like we said in the last one, the equipment is super important. So if you aren't going out and buying a $150 brewer, that's okay. If you got one, that's okay too. Couple of things I wanted to point out: if you have something like this, like a Mr. Coffee or the Ninja, any of the things that you're going to buy from any of the stores, basically, right? Your regular stores, your Walmarts, your Targets, etc., etc. Three things. One, this has nothing to do with the equipment, but use good water. You have to have good water. If you're not gonna go out and get specialty treatment for your distilled water, that's okay. Just make sure you're using like super clean, natural, or if you have like an RO system in your house, or if you have a water softener, use the one with your fridge that's also got the carbon filter so it gets the calcium out. You want to treat that water, one, so that it keeps your equipment in good shape. So my old brewer from the last video, I've had for 5 years, and that's because I use good water in it, so I don't have that calcium buildup in there. It's gonna last me a really long time. That's super important. Number two, as it pertains to that water, is that these little machines, they don't get the water hot enough. And because they don't get the water hot enough, it's not brewing your coffee properly. And then they're compensating it with what we're gonna talk about for number three, the hot plate. So as you can see here, the water is only coming in at 180 degrees. So we need to be between 195 and 205 to extract all the goodness out of hot coffee for a good cup of coffee. So what it's doing is it's brewing at too low of a temperature, and so we know it's probably just not gonna taste very good. And then it's compensating with the hot plate. So it's not brewing hot enough. How do you cheat that? You pre-boil some water. So I have a little kettle, you boil it until it starts shaking and it's boiling, you take it off, let it settle till it's not shaking around, so it's off the boil, and then I put hot water into the top of the machine, okay? So putting in 200-degree water into this with its mechanics in there kind of gives it that extra boost so that it can brew water at the proper temperature. You can see it here. Okay, so now that we're brewing water at the we have the good water, we have water at the correct temperature, we're already going to have much better coffee, okay? The last issue, and this is a big one, is this part right here, this little hot plate, okay? So what these things are designed to do is brew water as hot as it can mechanically, which uses really cheap parts, and so it can only get so hot, and then it puts it on this hot plate, and these hot plates jack the temperature up to like 210 degrees, right? And so I have a little hot plate, like a separate hot plate, the warmers, and I put my thermometer on it. You can see it here. Okay, so you can see how it's jacking that temperature way up. It's brewing at 180, and then that hot plate is bringing the temperature up so that when you get your coffee, you pour it, it's nice and hot. And so you think that it's brewing properly, but it's actually not brewing properly, and then it's jacking up the heat. What jacking up the heat does is it actually burns the coffee in here, okay? So just like if you've ever cooked anything with milk, right? Milk is actually a solution. It's got fats and sugars all mixed into the water. And if you cook with it, it'll scorch, like if you have it too hot, and it'll be burned. Even though it's still white when you taste it, it'll taste burned, and so you've scorched the milk. That's exactly what happens in your coffee. Okay, so when you put it on this hot plate and you let it sit there for however long, most people leave it on all day, all you're doing is you're taking all those nice, beautiful volatiles and you're just burning them, right? You're running them at 210 degrees forever, right? So one, you're gonna start getting steam, so a lot of the water is going to start coming out, and then you're going to be burning the actual solution, the coffee molecules in there, And so what ends up happening is you start getting a strong, as you get down, you start getting a stronger and stronger and stronger cup of coffee because water is leaving, so your water to coffee concentration is going up. And then that coffee is getting more burned and more burned and more burned, so it's getting bitter, it's getting stronger and more bitter as it goes down. And so usually by the end of that pot, you're like, whoa, that's terrible, right? That's why that hot plate is just burning the crap out of your coffee. So my recommendation, if you have one of these things, it's okay, use it. Jack your water temperature up before putting it in there. Try not to leave it on the hot plate for as long as you can, right? So I know these little glass containers, they're not insulated, so if you were to set it off on the side, it's gonna cool real quick. So if you have these smaller ones are probably better because then you're just like pouring a couple of cups and then you're on your way. So if you're looking to nurse a pot of coffee all day, that hot plate's gonna make it, just know that the hot plate's gonna make it bitter, right? By the end of it, it's gonna be burned and bitter. But you know what, that's okay. It's actually not okay, but I understand why people do this. A lot of it, that's the flavor that most people are familiar with. One last trick I wanna throw at you is as you're brewing it, these things have this little compress right here. And so what it does is when you pull it out, it stops the brewing. And then when you push this back in, it's got this little knob. It's gonna push that up and then the water will start coming out. And so what a lot of us will do is we'll start the brewing. We'll be like, oh, we got a little bit of coffee in there. We'll pour it, we'll put it back in there. It'll fill up a little bit more. We'll pour some more, we'll put it back in. Terrible, terrible idea. Coffee extracts, just like cooking, right? You cook from the outside in, right? Coffee is very similar. You're gonna pull out, there's certain things that are, the temperature and the water are gonna pull out right away, just like cooking the outside of a piece of meat or something like that. And then as it goes in and as the water flows over the coffee, it's gonna pull out more and different things out of the coffee, flavors, and it's that mixture of the beginning, the middle, and the end that balances your cup of coffee so that it is delicious. So if you're pulling it out, it's gonna be kind of sweet and acidic. The middle, it's gonna be it's gonna be all body and not a lot of flavor, and at the end, it's gonna be bitter or astringent. So it's kind of, those things, none of those things are good by themselves, but all of those things put together make good coffee, right? So it's about balancing that cup. So please use good water. Make sure you're brewing at the right temperature. Don't leave it on the hot plate for very long, and don't take your carafe in and out while it's brewing. Let it brew all the way through. So that is my recommendation for using a Mr. Coffee to help you get some delicious coffee. If this helps you, let me know. If it helps you, please share it too, right? If these are helping you get good coffee at home, please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Let's wage war on bitter coffee, right? Let's get it done. So I appreciate you. Thank you for watching, and look forward to helping you a little bit more.